Lockheed Martin, and we have over 110,000 people around the world. Um, Mostly obviously everybody working in plant in a manufacturing type of environment with a lot of IT and different security things that you have to think about. And all of a sudden, we were all home. Um, and at first, we were testing the VPN's limits. Right? They were telling us you can't do video Skype. You absolutely can't. And then I guess in the weeks after everything was happening, I guess they learned that the infrastructure was there, and so they kind of relaxed those rules. And I mean, it's been really a seamless transition. Um, every everybody adapted, and we've been more collaborative. I think I was able to write a 400-page manual pretty much from home, only having to go in to interact with the hardware, once every 3-4 months. It was um, we really, I think, broke the paradigm, as they say. We we reinvented the wheel. We shattered the wheel and reinvented it. Right.
Hmm.
It was forced, and now it's such a culture change that I think that the company is now asking people, do you want to stay home? And now we're given that option. So it's um, so yeah, that's my personal story so far. I'm gonna stay home for as long as I can. So I like it so far.
Yeah, I'm afraid I don't have much to add to the conversation since I was already remote, so it was more just getting to see how everyone else responded. How about people who were new to working remote? I think maybe Julia, you've got something?
I started at JHT while we were still in lockdown, so I don't know what it's like to be in their offices with everyone. But we do every now and then have my team, which is maybe 6 people, 7 people, something around that. And we just go into a conference room and figure out, okay, what do we all need to know about whatever equipment that we are trying to write about that we have to do in office, because we have samples that we can experiment with to figure out how does this get put together, how does it get taken apart, and so on.
Mm. Yeah, what I'm hearing you guys say true is I'm sure this is harder when you work with hardware. I used to work at Honeywell, and yeah, I had tons of hardware on my desk, and I know that I haven't had to deal with this, but some of our um, team members who have to test, like cash drawer machines, that they're driving around trying to meet each other to drop off the devices, and I imagine if you're documenting hardware, it's a bit of a challenge to work from home
I'm
all the time.
retired now, so it's completely foreign to me to even think that Lockheed Martin, after where I spent 45 years, could actually function in a distributed manner like this. Uh, all the new business proposals I was associated with, for example, there are always support functions. There's never any time. There's always somebody who seems to be lagging the pack and needs to have some writing captured and this kind of thing. But I will admit, in retirement, I picked up a job as an exam proctor for Rasmussen University here in Orlando. And it was clearly a part-time job. And they intended to hire me for like 8 hours a week. And that also meant driving to campus 3 times a week to earn those 8 hours, plus the inefficiency of driving,
Hmm.
of logging in, of getting the materials, of waiting for the computer to boot up so I could at least put in my time, and then watching students take tests. So thanks to the pandemic, I now do this from the comfort of my home. I usually am on Photoshop or something like that, working with various photographs while the students are testing. But also, they took the opportunity to make it regional. So I'm basically conducting tests for all the campuses in the system. as well as a statewide entry-level exam that is offered a couple times a week here in Florida. So now I'm working like 12, 13 hours, more pay, certainly without any of the inefficiency that I had to start out with. So the pandemic has really transformed what I do, just even though it's at a retirement setting. I'm very pleased. I still don't know how Lockheed does it, but I'm very pleased.
It's a little more complicated.
No, my company was extremely thrilled at the results of what happened when we went remote, because they were really concerned that productivity would go down, but it skyrocketed, and amazing numbers of things have been completed and taken care of. So now the company still has not opened. I had to go in and get a new computer, and I had to, like, the guard had to let me in, and I couldn't leave the lobby, and it was very weird. But they're thrilled, and they still don't expect to bring anybody back full time until at least for the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
And my manager knows that I probably cannot go back because I take care of my husband, who is many, many years older than I am and has dementia. So the timing worked out really well that I could come home and work full time from home, because he can't be left alone for more than a couple of hours.
What industry are you in, Lori?
I
Probably
work in financial software, so I do taxes, sales tax. If you buy anything off of Amazon, they're using our software to calculate your tax. Simply said.
I buy lots of things from Amazon,
Especially
even
in the
pre-pandemic.
And a lot of the Verizon, Comcast, a lot of, hundreds of companies, and we work with a lot of different sales software. So what I personally do is I write the configuration guides to set up your system to work with our software.
I'll hear your financial services and raise you if you drive on a road in the United States. The construction teams have probably used our software to help build the road, which is not nearly as fun sounding, but
Oh, I can top for even less fun.
okay.
You bought a home and a bank has serviced your mortgage. Might have used our software. Software is everywhere, right? Enabling our lives in ways we don't see. I actually was going to pivot to a question from Alice, which was, what about Florida's vaccine initiatives can teach us? Sorry, I read it wrong. What can Florida's vaccine initiatives teach us?
I'm confused. That wasn't supposed to be a question. It was supposed to be a topic I was going to talk about, because this is something I've been following.
Oh,
I guess I misunderstood.
I was just phrasing it as a question so that other people could respond as well.
Oh,
You want to explain kind of what the background is?
I mean, I had this whole thing prepared where I was going to talk about Florida's vaccine response.
Okay. How uneven it's been, depending on where you live.
But no, that's the thing. It hasn't really been that uneven, not compared to many other places.
Oh, gotcha. Well, if we're talking about the vaccine distribution and how it relates to TechComm, I'm not sure what experiences other people had using the various different appointment websites, depending on who you got your vaccine from. My grandmother is 86 years old, so she was eligible early for the vaccine. So I have used sites for Walmart, Publix, CVS, our local Department of Health, and found the experience very confusing despite being very comfortable with technology. And I don't know how an 86-year-old would have navigated any of those sites in order to get a vaccine. I was curious if anyone else had thoughts about kind of maybe the TechComm side of things.
Well, yeah, I would just echo that, because it was a little overwhelming to know where to start. And I'm someone who has a really bad reaction to these things. So I was like, well, I'd like to be able to have follow-up care, and why can't I just call my doctor?
Right?
Wouldn't that be better? And yeah, but it was a little overwhelming, and yeah, I was like, you know what, I can maybe, I know we're in the first wave, so it's a little crazy right now, and I'm hoping that, I guess this is like agile, right? Fail early, fail often, and figure out, well, how to clarify. That's where I was assuming where we were.
Yeah, and I would say things have certainly improved. Alice, you have thoughts on maybe how things have evolved over the vaccine rollout?
Well, I mean, the thing is that I've been like um paying close attention to like the press conferences about vaccine distributions and stuff, because there've been a lot of those. So I think that like my understanding is that they initially wanted things to be appointment only, just because they knew that there would be a lot of people who wanted it at first, especially in the elderly population. So they like had things be by appointment only at first, and then after and then like as things went on and more people got their vaccines, then they like opened things more up to like walk-ins, and they started going to people's homes in some cases, and they just tried different avenues, you know, because like they started by focusing on the long-term care facilities, and then they introduced it to the pharmacies, and then they had the open air testing sites, and they did religious communities and stuff. I don't know.
It's definitely been interesting to see how things have scaled up over the past few months, and where things have
Yeah.
improved and evolved, and how we are using technology to improve what we're providing. So I certainly would say it's a very different experience than it was, back in January.
Well, yeah, I think that's what I was getting at with this.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know it's not vaccine related, but I think I saw Ann Wiley join us. I'm putting her on the spot. I think she's on mute, not on video, but hi, Ann. Can I give you, hopefully I can give you a brief introduction.
Yeah. Hi, Bethany. I'm sorry I'm late. We had another meeting, and I'm at this point still confused about which end is up. Is that a good way to put it?
Which way is right side upside down?
I think this might be the top, but I have to verify later.
No, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to Spectrum. I wasn't able to attend every single event that I wanted, but you've made everything available. So Spectrum is a conference that the STC Rochester chapter hosts every year. I have always wanted to attend, but it has always been colliding with my work schedule. So I was able to go this year thanks to Anne. And I thought the events were outstanding, and Anne, you did a great job organizing so many different presentations. So I know you were curious to see what people might want to know for 2022.
And that's why I decided to listen in tonight to this conversation. And I also want to say how much we want to develop a good relationship with the Florida chapter, because you are very active, and I feel personally, and I know other members of our leadership team agree, you're right on target. So I was hoping we would be able to we had Bethany, that was wonderful. I was hoping we might be able to have someone else attend also, and that I don't think worked out. But it is our desire to work with you, and Spectrum has become a rather large endeavor, and we have a rather small chapter. So I am going to be inviting people who belong to the society to volunteer in roles that we would call non-fiduciary. And if anyone is welcome to join the Rochester chapter. And working on this, I will say, is good experience. And for people who are returning to the workforce and people who are new, it's particularly valuable to put the experience on a curriculum vitae resume. So I hope that we will have people participating from throughout STC and putting this on. And I think this was number 62. I think this has to evolve into more of a conference for chapters and special interest groups, in contrast to the summit, which is a conference for the society. I would call that the distinguishing feature. So that's where I'm going, and I wanted to listen into your thoughts about our needs for the future, what you might think would be a good theme for Leadership Day next year. People at the conference suggested addressing the challenges of the, we'll call it hybrid workplace, I guess. Be interesting to see how that evolves, but that might be a theme. And so I'm just listening,
Okay.
getting ideas, wanting to hear what you think.
Sure. Can you expand on what you mean by hybrid workplace for those who weren't at
I
Leadership
think
Day?
people are predicting in their own minds that we will be working both virtually and in person in some combination, but no one knows what that's going to look like. Of course, we can never see into the future in any aspect of our lives, and we have to remember that. But people are kind of anxious about this because this is their daily lives and their livelihoods. And they're really getting to be very interested in what it is that work is going to look like as we evolve out of this pandemic. And it's an evolution. It won't be a sudden emergence. So that will be something we could address. And I've had some other thoughts also, but I'm just listening right now. We have a little bit of time, not much. I get moving by summer.
You're like, well, the event's wrapped up. It's been 3 days.
Yeah, well, I've already started, but I also am struggling with the archive, and something went very haywire with the Leadership Day recordings, it looks like, but maybe I have so many files, maybe I can figure out what happened. So that's what I've been working on before this other meeting that made me late. But it's great to see everybody, and we are very great admirers of the Florida chapter, and I am a very great admirer of John Clement, if I can single him out.
Oh, please do single John out. I love to put him on the spot.
Yeah, we have people we pick on, John. It's only the ones we really super love. That's
Bethany, I don't
Thank
want
you.
to.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
I don't want to take us off.
No, but please, if you got something to add.
Gadget. Well, Anne talked about, the hybrid work. I am from New Jersey originally, and I was hired in 2018 down in Florida. So I moved, and then during the pandemic, we expanded the team and they opened it up to remote hire. And my boss was like, well, actually they ended up switching us. So my new boss was like, so how do you feel about the fact that you had to pick up and move your entire life? And now this person just got to sign up. And I was like, it's a different time. Who could have foreseen that? But
hopefully there's some things you like about being here that ease it a little bit.
Oh, there's totally. I mean, I'm living in double the square footage.
I was going to say cost of living.
And if I wanted to go home, that would be a tough transition because it's a little bit more expensive.
I would never have left Florida if this was an option.
Right. I was just going to say, I mean, I've already told Bethany, my plan is if we all know we're remote, I'm heading north where the cost of living is even lower. Palm Beach County is just
north.
crazy
Right.
now.
I joked when Jessica said north, and I was like, how far north? And you're like Palm Beach County. And I was like, oh, out of Palm Beach County. I was like, oh, okay. I thought you meant like Canada.
No. I was talking I was talking Daytona, Casadega, something that isn't the insanity of Palm Beach County.
That's fair.
Leesburg was lovely.
I'm a big fan of Central Florida. I think, Anne, you were going to add something?
I have great sympathy for people who don't want to leave their homes. And I live in a community which is adjacent to places that my ancestors had Revolutionary War land grants. And when I first came back here, I was 21, and I happened to run across a little diary my great-grandfather had kept, and he was talking about taking the train back from Ithaca to King Ferry. And I thought, if he could make a living here and everybody else could, I can too. And so for a long time, I worked in Rochester, and now I work remote, and I never wanted to leave. And I understand if you are from Florida, you don't want to leave. Shouldn't have to. Stay with your mom and dad. Stay with your kids. It's important.
It is interesting in terms of, our daily lives are going to be affected, but our whole lives are going to be affected. I mean, Florida, one of the reasons I've talked about leaving Palm Beach County is the real estate values around here are absolutely astronomical, because Palm Beach and Miami, although I think that's kind of nuts at this point with the words we're not allowed to say in Florida called climate change, and how Miami seems to be further and further underwater with every hurricane. But this is the hottest real estate because people are wanting to move where the weather's better if they're not tied to a physical location. And I'm thinking, well, I'd rather move to where the money is better and it isn't as expensive, and it's just making real estate values around here like wild. So why not sell my place while I could get a great price for it?
Well, one
You
thing,
know, and that's changing all over the country. So it's going to be
Yep.
very interesting.
Orlando's the same way with real estate right now.
That's why I
Yeah.
left. I was like, I can have twice as much house if I move an hour away. But one thing, I guess, bringing up the whole idea of us moving to remote work, how much we're paid, which has been so closely tied
yes.
to where we work. So if you're hired in Florida versus hired in California for the same job, even if you work remote, many companies pay you very differently based on the average salaries of those states. And I'm curious how that's going to change, or if it will, as people start to get hired in certain places and then move, or compare salaries more, which I know is still an uncomfortable topic. And I don't know that there's a right or wrong answer here, but that's something I think is sort of in tension right now as people are moving from where they originally were hired, as they can work remote.
Bethany.
Yes, and it
sorry.
could go either. Oh, sorry, Claudia. I was going to say it could go
yeah.
either way.
Hey, that was okay. I was just going to mention, I
Yeah.
just read in the Jacksonville Business Journal, it said Florida was becoming one of the most least affordable states because the housing,
Mhm.
the cost of housing is outpacing the median income for employment.
For a lot of people who were working remotely are moving here to escape state income tax, which is driving real estate through. I mean, yeah, it is.
Exactly. And there's
It's sort of
low inventory.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I moved to my neighborhood 3 years ago now. There were, I believe, 10 houses in the neighborhood, and now there are more than 20 that were built during, a couple started before the pandemic, but all the rest have been built and moved into and sold for 3 times what I paid for my house.
right.
And I just live in a town called Palm Bay that's just like off I-95. Like, there's nothing special here. It's just, it was a cheap place to live, and it's not so much anymore. So a lot of people are being priced out who would have been able to buy homes here just 3 years ago. So I'm curious to see how these trends might change, or where they're going to take us in the next few years, especially as it relates to our work, since many of us will stay remote.
For our infrastructure, it happened right after the census.
Mhm.
And so we're going to have to, care for all of these people that are, moving into Florida for the next 10 years and not get
right.
compensated for it, right? For another 10 years.
Yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't thought about the census timing happening right when it did. So I guess I wanted to pivot to another question. Sorry, I've become one of those people that say pivot as I hear myself. I'm trying not to, but they say it all the time at work, and it's just worked its way into my brain. But Jessica, you had a question about collaboration tools and what people recommend. I assume there's an impetus for this question.
Is this me, Jessica?
Yes, you, Jessica. I think.
Oh yeah, okay.
No, you're the only Jessica this time. We've had multiple Jessicas.
Oh,
I think you are a lone Jessica.
I completely forgot that I submitted this question. Only because we just had our training in Microsoft Teams this week. Then there's Zoom. Then we were on WebEx, and just one of the main benefits, and as I've been hearing you, it doesn't really work so much with hardware unless you can hold it up to the camera. But one of the main benefits I know about collaboration tools is screen sharing. That has made, at least in software, that has made things much easier for me to do when I'm on the phone with somebody and we just pull up the screen, whether sometimes it's my writing, sometimes it's literally the software. And I think that's one of the big pluses that, speaking of hygiene and this, when we would all crowd around the desk and we were practically spitting on each other to see what someone was doing in someone's cubicle. When you think about that now, that's probably, we're never going back to that. But
so
there are lots of different,
what people are using in their work experience.
Well, yeah, what they like, what if there are any, so many of these tools like Google Hangout, they all tend to have like sort of the same tools, but sometimes not. Some of them are better, and you only discover as you use them.
Here's the thing. Every single one of those tools that we used a year ago has either changed radically or been deprecated because it's been a complete evolution. Skype for Business, dead. Google Hangouts, dead. They killed both of those off. Whereas Teams has become an entirely new application in the past year, which it used to be just like Skype Plus, and now they're like,
Yeah.
we need to make it like Slack.
Yes. I was just thinking that when he was showing it to us. I said, this is just like Slack. Like, this is like a really big Slack, the way he was describing
It's like Slack if you married it to SharePoint. The back end for Teams is SharePoint. They won't tell you that, but it is. That's where your files go. It's SharePoint.
We went from Skype to Teams, but we use Teams for internal only, and we use WebEx for client things, because clients can't get into our Teams too well.
Oh, right. You have to invite them. They just showed us that there's like a special way to do it. And I thought, I bet that's really complicated and probably doesn't work as well as they're saying.
Yeah, we don't. We just use WebEx for things that and I do a lot of mentoring, and I noticed that when I ask for control, it's horrible in Teams. Just saying. I can't really show people.
You have
I
to
have
ask.
to say,
You have to ask for control in your Teams.
yeah, when you ask for control, it's an icon that you click, and they give me control, but then I can't hardly work there.
Gotcha. I see. I found Teams to be a little unstable, but it is stuffed full of features. So
it is, and it's really good. But the other thing is it maintains chat forever.
It does.
That's a good thing.
I just realized, it's funny. And I did say one of the things that's great about working from home is honesty. And I just realized I had a chat conversation I probably shouldn't have had this afternoon because we were talking about how useless one of the options was. I said, that really should have been a phone call because the chat will be maintained forever.
I guess kind of talking about tools, is there anyone who's found that you communicate with like your immediate team very differently? Because I'll say my team, we used to mostly talk through email and calls, and now we do talk through just chats on Teams a lot for more immediate things. I was curious if anyone else has noticed any shifts.
I don't talk to my team almost at all anymore.
Oh no! How do you share pictures of your dog?
We have a doggos channel.
Oh, okay, good. I'm glad to know that. All right, that's the important thing. But
yeah, I mean, we work for a software company, so we used to sit near each other, but mostly we're picking the brains of the subject matter experts. So one, I couldn't do my job at all remote without screen sharing. Because I used to just roll over and be like, show me your screen. And now I'll just be like, let me share my screen and show me where the button is. But that's kind of reduced the amount of, we have weekly check-ins and we have our own Slack channel for our team, but I've actually found we're kind of working very independently.
Is there less camaraderie?
Yeah, kind of, and it sounds sad, but I also feel like we've gotten more efficient too. So
yeah, the productivity goes up when you don't have side conversations as much anymore. Yeah.
And you don't get as confused when you can just pull up the screen and everybody looks at it at the same time and you can do it really quickly. You don't have as many back and forth conversations that are actually about two different things but sound like they're the same thing. And that is the bane of a tech writer's existence, where the words are very similar. So you think you're talking about the same thing, and actually the developer thought you were talking about something completely differently.
That is the second bane of my existence. I think the primary bane is how far along the production pipeline things can get with just like a vague concept. And then when I'm at the very end going, okay, but what is it? And they're like, well, I'm like, but I can't write that down. You need to have clarity in what you have built.
This was the conversation I had in chat this afternoon where he said, what does that option do? And I said, I asked and asked and asked, and I have no idea what that option did. And he found out, he was telling me, oh, by the way, and it didn't work, which is why you couldn't figure out why it didn't work.
Well, I guess since we were talking about applications, is there anyone who's had really positive or really negative experiences with any of the applications? I know we've all been using Zoom for various different things, but I was curious if the other ones, I know we've already talked about Teams.
Actually, like the Cisco WebEx, that's what our company or our group uses. And we also use the Skype for business when we want to just meet among our team. But I find the WebEx and both of them are very effective when you want to share your screen.
Yeah, it's hard to remember what the time was like before screen sharing. It's such a default feature now, and there was a time when it was, hot and innovative not that long ago.
Right.
Right. One of the things I found interesting too is, and this could be just generational, and I speak as someone who's getting older, and I'm sure I'm doing some of these things, but I've noticed some of our older management, like I've learned from these meetings, like what you have your camera on at the beginning, but then when the presentation starts, you shut your camera off. Like that's the way that I've always done it. And we're having an open forum, but I know a lot of people do that because we're saving bandwidth. And whereas you'll see everybody has their camera on.
Oh.
And I was like, why are we doing this? And doesn't people know to shut their camera off when you don't need it? You're saving bandwidth. I just see this whole line of people just staring upwards, like I can see right up all their noses and think that's.
Well, and I'll say personally, I'm not very interesting to watch when I'm not talking. My face just blandly looks at the screen, looking pale. It's not really adding anything. I do enjoy getting to see people on video for chats like this. I feel like those extra cues really help me engage and connect with people. I mean, I know we do a lot of stuff audio only too in our lives, but I like getting to see people's faces, especially for people I haven't gotten to meet in person. So I've been really grateful for that.
The sharing is great at the beginning. I was like, why does everybody leave their camera on during the whole hour and a half meeting where there's a presentation?
I don't do that.
I always thought everybody knew that, but it's like new etiquette. These tools are teaching us a new kind of etiquette.
Well, and there's rules we're still figuring out, like pets
Yeah,
on camera,
exactly.
great in some contexts. I ban them all if I'm going to be on like for a town hall or something like that where there's going to be a lot of people. Because I mean, as much as I want to show off my cats, I know they're very distracting. Then I put up a virtual background. Oh, sorry, my hands disappeared. I have many cats,
yes.
So they always make themselves known. But overall, I think every tool is different, but and I think I've used a bit of everything. There's like GoToMeeting, WebEx. They took away our WebEx a year ago because we were switching tools, and I was very sad because I really liked WebEx. It was so stable, so consistent.
So I was in a training earlier today. I did a lunch and learn today about presentations I attended it. I did not give it, but it was about virtual presentations. And within the first 5 minutes, she sent out a poll that said, how many of you are guilty of multitasking during virtual meetings? And
guilty?
She didn't say guilty. I forget.
Okay.
I think that's what we all responded, guilty. And the second question was, how many of you are being interrupted in multitasking right now by this poll? And I think it was, the first question was an 80% positive, and the second question was a 50% positive. So Jessica, to your point, if it's one where I know participation is not going to be expected of me, I will turn off my camera so no one will see me being like this or like this. But shoot, that was the main takeaway of if you're giving a virtual presentation, assume that everyone is distracted.
Well, I'll say another advantage, you could talk about the meeting with other people in the meeting, separate from the meeting, if you want to talk about what's happening in the meeting.
Yep.
Oh my God, what is Bethany talking about?
Right. But lesson learned from seeing it happen to someone else. Make sure you put it in the right chat, or you're not sending it to the person screen sharing, because I've seen a message pop up about someone who was screen sharing, and it was like, it popped up in the screen for everyone. I was like, oh, the secondhand embarrassment is going to kill me. So, I like getting them the chance to have more conversations, and as a multitasker, I don't want to feel guilty. I want to feel empowered as long as I'm getting what I need. But you're right. Everybody multitasks, or almost everybody does.
Right, and it is a new set of skills. You just reminded me. We were doing a demo, and I'm really good friends with one of the guys, and I saw something funny on the window, but I waited till he stopped screen sharing because I knew my message would pop up on his screen saying, "Hey, there's a weird thing on that window. Do you want to explain it so that they don't log a defect that's a nothing? We go through this whole cycle where it's nothing, and do you want to just explain that?" But I waited till he stopped screen sharing, and I could see his face on the camera. I was like, "Okay, now I'll IM him." And then he just kind of looked in the camera and like, "What are you doing?" Like I was crazy, and I was like, "Okay, so maybe we didn't quite work that out." But it was an interesting thing. I didn't want him to see a message, "Hey, what about that big messy thing that you didn't talk about?" Because I was like, okay. Oops. But I could totally see messing that up.
It's bound to happen to different people at different times if you have enough messages you send every day. So speaking of polls, though, I'm going to launch that poll for Alex. So this is a question just about if you would be interested or available to attend Florida meetings on Fridays, potentially. So it's just a yes, no. You are not bound to attend if you say yes. It's just to give Alex a little bit of a sample. So hopefully that is popping up on your screen. And while that is up, I was going to hand it to Kate for a question.
Yes. So I have been looking into grad school, and I finally picked a program, which actually, thanks to COVID, I opted for an online program, which I probably would not have. I look young, but I'm a very old soul. And so, and I'm in Gainesville, I'm in University of Florida country. So I'm like, it's right there. I mean, traffic stinks, but it seems silly to not, the university is right there. But I actually decided that I was like, well, I'm so used to this remote stuff now. The online program actually sounds pretty spiffy. But my question buried in all of that was, I actually I spent a great deal of time kind of knocking down doors I wanted to do an interdisciplinary program combining something that a coworker and I noticed we're in different parts of the company, but we do similar things. Mm-hmm. We were noticing that it seemed like content strategies were not getting the same kind of quantitative analysis as a lot of the software and UX design and code type stuff. And we're like, I feel like this is very much related, and I work on a very old piece of the software, so we don't have any metrics, but her team does. And her team, their metrics are saying that people aren't engaging with the online content. And so I'm very interested in this to the point where I'm going to get my master's in it, in mass communication with a specialty in web design. But I'm just wondering if anybody else is noticing this trend of the way that people are engaging with content I do product documentation. So in my case, like boring content that you're only using, if you come to it, you're already frustrated because you haven't been able to figure it out in the UI. So I feel like we already go in with one demerit, like against us. And trying to, I just feel like it's not a particularly sexy topic of how do I make this web help topic more interesting and engaging.
Well, I mean, online learning is notoriously hard to make engaging. I think that people who've been teaching online in any capacity, whether that's in grade schools or whether it's in college, it is hard unless you're very motivated. It's not really a natural way to learn. So I think that's what people are finding. So it's I suppose you'd have to find some way of making it more natural, or else adopting a learning style that could keep them engaged no matter where they were.
Has anyone heard of trends in microcopy? Is anyone familiar with that? I've just learned about it recently.
I've only seen it briefly when I was starting to read up more on some UX stuff, because I can speak a little bit about the analytics side and what I do. So my team supports financial services applications that service mortgages. It's pretty wildly exciting. Our clients are banks. I mean, there are people that work at the banks. We don't, work with artificial intelligences, but they're all bankers who work with our software. And my job is to publish documentation to our documentation site. So it's any kind of technical specifications, user guides, training manuals. It's the one-stop shop for documentation. And for many, many years, the only data we had was logins. So we knew if people logged into the site because it's, obviously got a lot of proprietary stuff, so it's behind a login. And it was hard to know what that meant. Did somebody log into the site and find what they need? Did they log in and get frustrated? We don't know unless they actually had an issue and submitted a ticket to client services. So looking at tickets for issues was our only way to see where our gaps were in our documentation, which required a lot of detective work, and we didn't have a lot of data. I will say I love detective work in theory, but when you have a lot of other work on your plate, it really takes away from it. But we're switching to publishing our documentation in HTML5 through Madcap Flare, and if you do that through Madcap Central, they give you analytics on everything you publish. So that not only includes like which topics are people opening, but what terms are they searching for, and what terms are they searching for that they're not finding answers to. And that's been incredibly eye-opening for us because often we haven't heard from people on things they were looking for and didn't find, but now we can see what they're putting into the search field and it's just not producing results for them. So it shows exactly how many times people have viewed things, what kind of browsers they're viewing from, what operating systems.
Killing me. Back in February, I think I asked anonymously in one of the things, does anyone know about RoboHelp? And someone was like, people still use RoboHelp.
People still use RoboHelp. It's okay.
We support departments of transportation. They are not cutting edge, okay? Like those are
yes. What'd you say, Claudia?
I worked in RoboHelp. I'm very familiar with RoboHelp.
Oh, good.
And also Dreamweaver.
Mm-hmm.
I know all there is to know about Dreamweaver. If any of y'all are familiar with that application.
Yep. It's a classic. It's an iconic application in the field. So basically the short answer is I know I'm spoiled now for analytics, but what I found out is people use our documentation so much more than we thought. But they're not always finding what they need. So they're taking the time to look because they are people who have initiative and want to find their own answers and don't want to have to submit a ticket. They would like to solve the problem themselves, but there's more we can do. Sometimes not just to, we might have the documentation, but the way we've used terminology hasn't worked out to help them. So I think that's your kind of your micro copy things. How are we using words to guide people to what they need? So being able to see what they're searching for is helping.
I would love to know which topics people are accessing more frequently because I kind of feel like I'm just throwing stuff in a black hole. Like it's probably the 80-20 rule, right? Like 20% of the topics people are spending 80% of their time. I would love to know which are the most valuable.
Yes, it was interesting. We found out our top topic is how to search using the site. That is the most accessed topic. And I was like, that's probably a problem. And very revealing that they're searching for how to search. And I was like, that's obviously something we need to do better. Even if it's just maybe additional training or something like that, because it means they're really going the extra mile to find what they need, and they're not finding it right away.
On the upside, it's like super meta and kind of postmodern.
Yeah. the searching for the search instructions.
Exactly.
Well,
it's like someone could get their PhD like describing all of that.
Yeah.
What do search engines dream of, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, you thought I was joking.
The next Harrison Ford. Yeah, the next Harrison Ford will star in the movie adaptation.
Yeah,
just a guy searching, typing into his Ford. Well, but he's really hot, so you'll watch the whole movie.
Well, but there is that whole movie called Searching, which I highly recommend if you guys have not seen it, that entirely takes place on someone's desktop as he's searching for his missing daughter. It's a great movie, well constructed as sorry, this is not on topic, but it's a great movie, and especially if you like to see technology integrated into storytelling.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So,
so it's sort of like Taken without any kicking ass?
With no violence, yes.
No violence. If I don't see Liam Neeson beat a couple people up, I don't know if I can hang around.
No, it's a different yeah, it's much more putting notes into spreadsheets sort of movie. But I found it very relatable.
Oh, I'm sure it's fascinating.
Yeah. So
I think you gave a lot of attention to my question and I appreciate it. I guess my one other question for you is do you find Madcap Flare easy to use and do they offer any sort of support or is it supported by your IT? Because our IT department has washed their hands of RoboHelp.
Yes, great question. I am not sponsored by Madcap Flare, though I wish they would. I think it's a great product, and if you do purchase the system, you choose what level of support you want. There's additional cost for that. So I think you get, Jessica and I were talking about this and she's like, oh, we only have bronze. And I was like, if they spring for platinum, it's amazing. You get a person and they give you his name or her name and you just go to them whenever you need anything. Our person is named Keaton. I've said I love him to him in meetings. I mean, like, I have very fond feelings for him because he always solves my problem. So if they were interested in paying, your internal IT would probably not really have to do anything if you pay for madcap support, because it's the best support I've ever experienced with a company. They know what they do, and it's a product for technical communicators, so they really care about your content, that you're able to achieve what you need. It is not cheap, and it took me a while of phrasing the request in the right way and submitting the right proposal to the right person to get it purchased for our whole team. But I really love the tool. I would not say it's intuitive, and you do not necessarily pick it up quickly, but it's. Would you agree, Jessica?
Yeah, no, I was just gonna make a joke about the bronze package because it reminded me of that movie Austin Land, if anyone's ever seen it, where she gets the copper package. Anyway. So she doesn't get the boyfriend. It's a whole thing.
Yeah.
But I have the bronze package where I have to email my requests in, and then they try to troubleshoot it via email, but I can't call them. That's tricky. So, but you learn a lot. Boy, do you learn a lot. And boy, do you learn how to troubleshoot the back end, because you have to.
And if you did, you know me, and you now know Jessica, who knows more than me. So,
Exactly. But I will say one thing, though. One of the things that's interesting about Flare, because I had to go through this with my tech guys, because we had to do a lot of ADA customizations, which I, by the way, just took out completely because Flare finally fixed it on their end. So it broke all of my stuff, and so it's a whole long story. But one of the things that my guy did keep saying, and probably why your team has washed their hands of it, is they don't know what's happening at compile time. That's always the special sauce of the magic in Flare, and probably in RoboHelp, is they know how the code would work. And he's like, well, I could put it here, but I don't know if it's going to get overwritten by the skin, the target, the try-pane file. And I was like, I really couldn't tell you that. And Flare isn't going to tell you that kind of thing. So it can be hard for your tech guys to know what to do to fix it. So that's a challenge.
Yeah.
If you don't have the platinum package.
I was going to say, if you're a pretty technical person, it's a lot easier. If you have some knowledge of code and a lot of software experience, it won't be so difficult. If your experience is mostly writing, if you don't have someone more experienced to help you, it will be more challenging because there's a lot of complexity to it. But it's really robust and a powerful platform. So yeah, I found it to be a really good experience. So I will end the Madcap Flare commercial. Sorry, everybody. But I was going to come to Claudia next because I know you had a specific question about LinkedIn. Putting you on the spot, sorry.
Yeah, I was just wondering, I'm in a contract role, and my contract may be ending at the end of June. So I've just started thinking about how I'm looking at future job opportunities. And my contract has a non-disclosure. So I was just curious, what is the acceptable, what I can put on my LinkedIn profile? I mean, I was told I could only put the name of the company that I'm actually working for, which is not it's Tech Systems, which is my staffing agency. But I can't divulge the client, but I can put my title, which I have. And I have out there right now, dash consultant and contract. But I was just wondering if anyone else had any ideas. I mean, this is the first time I've ever been a contractor, so I don't know what the rule is, so to speak, regarding LinkedIn profiles.
Anyone have specific experience to share?
I don't know if there's a rule, but my general guide is, okay, what are the basics of what I did? I created this kind of document. I put stuff in spreadsheets. Just the most generic way that you can say what you have done, put that.
Documentation, basically, product documentation.
Yeah, I mean, all of our stuff is, our whole business model is intellectual property. But that being said, there's lots of demos and white papers. So anything that's publicly available, if you can do a Google search for it and it's public and anyone can find it, that's kind of my guideline on safe versus not safe. Like if it's publicly available, it's not insider
That's a good idea.
information.
Yeah. I haven't had this experience personally, but from friends who have, I've seen that they ask the staffing agency for a description of their work, so that way it's not coming from the actual company if they can't divulge that. So sometimes they can put what they were hired to do, which I think kind of Julie's point is sometimes more general, but that might help.
Yeah, the other thing with LinkedIn is they do have a skills section.
Mm-hmm.
And they do have an about section where, in terms of how the algorithms work, it's always good. This is what I was told years ago. You can, in your skills section, like if you work in RoboHelp or what have you, you would list it in you like basically list your skills section in the about section, and then you also mark them as skills, so you'll come up twice. It's more heavier weighted in the algorithm, and so I'm saying if you can't put a lot of content in your job description, you can still get the buzzwords into your LinkedIn profile in a way that can still help you come up in searches. They do give you that option. And they also now, this is also on my to-do list, they've started skills tests.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't done those, but I'm sure they're like these 10-minute tests and it goes on your profile. I'm sure that those are a good idea too. Like if you're I'm sure they have one for technical writing or software something, and you could take a skills test and you're sort
We've
of
seen
putting
one
your
for
skills out there.
proofreading.
Ah, there you go. I must have misread it, but LinkedIn though, yeah, I was just thinking it does give you ways to boost your profile and be found without having to put the details of your job. And I just sent this to Nancy because I just saw this article about how weird it is with all this stuff going on with LinkedIn and these lawsuits in the background about how the way that they're parsing data you put in your profile anyway. So you might not necessarily be able to be found just by like the job description stuff. And that's a whole, I can post it. It was very interesting, but
Yeah,
I thought they
sounds
do have those
interesting.
other, they do have the other skills that I was like, well, that's how I may take all that other junk off and just take a few skills tests. So that's a way to boost yourself.
Okay, great. I didn't know all that. Thank you for sharing. So I know you had a sort of a Did you still have a secondary question about tech writing skills, Claudia?
No, thank you. I appreciate all the ideas from everyone. That's helpful.
All right. Well, then I know we had a sort of a topic from Kay about training courses that may help or enhance job opportunities. So I guess sort of if anyone's had any experience with training, and that kind of I think builds off of Jessica's suggestion about doing some of the LinkedIn tests and things. So has anyone had any positive experiences with training courses? I guess on the job. Kate, you already shared your lunch and learn. Have there been any other good topics?
I'm toying with adding an instructional design certificate onto my grad program, which is just making it more and more expensive. Like the more a la carte I seem to go.
Well, I hope your company does tuition reimbursement, right?
They do.
Okay,
And they
good.
do it annually, and I'm planning on doing it on like a slow pace. So the slower I go, the more they pay.
I think it's smart. That's the best way to get a degree, when someone else pays for it and you do it on your own time. So seems like a good idea. I know for STC, I'm actually the board liaison to the education committee, and we've been providing a lot of really good webinars, courses, and workshops with different presenters. So it's really been a much more robust year for education. I can send you guys the link to that. But there's some really good programs there, especially if you're looking to do something special. Like I did the technical editing certificate to brush up on my tech editing skills, given that I had not done any official training since college a while back. And I found that to be a really helpful course. So I think STC is a good place to start if there's things like that. I know there's a lot of different free options. Oh, thank you, Jessica, for sharing resume formats. Has anyone had any good experiences with some of the free platforms that you can get education from as well?
I've heard good things about Khan Economy.
Great for learning coding and stuff like that, right?
Nielsen Norman Group
Mm-hmm.
For UX design, and they pretty expensive. So getting your company to pay for it would be the good way to go. But they have some really cool, there's a course I want to take called the Human Mind and Usability. I'm like,
That
what
sounds
is that? So they have a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah, I think it kind of depends what you're looking for. If you're looking for broadly, I want to develop more skills, there's certainly lots of things available online. If you want to specialize, like I know some people who, like we already talked about Bad Cat Flare. I said the commercial was over, but I know they have programs where you can get additional certifications if you're wanting to specialize in that tool, and some other tools and processes have that as well. There's always people going to get their PMP for product management if you think that's going to be a key part of what you do. It is not an easy road, but it depends on, I guess, whether you're looking for just gaining knowledge or increased credentials or just whatever will help down the road. So,
Can I interject something?
yes.
Oh, may I? I'm sorry, not can I?
No,
May
you can,
I?
you can both of them. You can and you may.
I guess, like I said at the beginning, I just graduated with my degree. I am a seasoned person, I guess you could say, for a better lack of word of saying old, and trying to start a new career. And it's been very frustrating because as of yet, I'm very good at getting rejection letters.
Oh.
And I don't know if maybe I need more certificates or more education under my belt other than a bachelor's degree. I've been an entrepreneur for the last 20 plus years. So I'm kind of sort of out of the workforce, or have been for years. So getting back into this, I'm trying to figure out which is the best avenue to go.
Have you been on any of our meetings with Jack Malasani? I don't know if that name sounds familiar. I bring him up because he runs his own staffing firm, and he has been very kind and generous to help our chapter members by giving resume feedback. And I think that's been
I
really
sent him my resume and never heard anything.
okay. Then I will bug Jack to make sure he gets back to you on that, because I know he's usually got a keen eye for where gaps are, even if sometimes it's not just the presentation of your resume might be perfect, but things where you can reposition to look for something specific, because he's very knowledgeable, I think, about what is available out there, especially now that so much work is remote. So it might be something that I guess you're kind of just looking for. I want a job or something.
Kind of, sort of, yes.
Okay.
And remotely, because
Of course.
like I said, I'm an independent agent for a logistics company. So I would kind of like to keep that until I get something more concrete.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been working from home for way before COVID, so for the last 20 years, I've been working from home. So I like it. I don't want to.
Never want to go back. It's great.
Exactly.
You get comfortable. No, I completely understand. I don't see myself wanting to go back into an office unless they really make it worth my while, because I like being able to set the thermostat, among other things.
My mother is in her 60s and she just started a remote job, and she's like, what am I doing? And I'm like, it's okay. It'll be fine. But I don't have a specific solution, Kay, but I can offer empathy, and that's one of the reasons I decided to leave the New York area, was because I was underemployed for some time. And once I expanded my search criteria, I mean, it's just so populated. The competition was cutthroat, and it definitely impacted my self-esteem of like, I graduated with honors and did all of this stuff, and why does nobody want me? And it's really and I'm using humor, but I mean it definitely took a toll. And then when I found a company that like actually thought I was useful and worthwhile, it was pretty validating. But
yeah, that's exactly how I feel, because I returned to school after 40 years. Mm-hmm. And made straight A's this last 2 years of, to get my degree. And it's like, oh my gosh, I've done something. I've accomplished something. And now it's like, thank you, but we've gone another avenue. And it's like, yeah, I know I'm old. I don't, but I'm still young at heart.
Oh,
At one point, I was looking for a retail job and I was competing against people who had like upper management jobs for a
Oh, wow.
retail job.
Yeah.
I
Wow.
was like, this is too much. I gotta go.
Right. And I recently moved to Ocala and we went through McDonald's to grab a soda the other day. And my son was like, "Oh, look, Mom, they're hiring." And I was like, "Shut up. I'm not working at McDonald's."
Well,
You know?
at the very least, minimum wage will be going up in September.
Exactly. Exactly.
And I can second you on that, Kate. It is so hard. But the reason that I got the job that I have now and the one I had previously is going to STC meetings, networking, asking everyone at every meeting, "Hey, do you know of any opportunities? Could you put in a good word for me? I'll email you my resume." And it helps so much. Keep your chin up.
Okay.
You'll get there. Trust me.
All
Absolutely.
right. I appreciate that.
Hey, are you on LinkedIn? I want to friend you.
I was gonna say, yeah, everyone, if you want to put your LinkedIn in the chat, I know some of us are already connected, but you know, if you're looking for more connections on LinkedIn who might be able to pass along a job opportunity, please do. I think it's always great to get to see, you know, people who are in STC who say, "Hey, I've got a job." Other thing to mention, Kay, I guess when it comes to networking, are you a member of the STC, the society's Slack channel or Slack workspace? Because there is a job opportunities channel there that is updated pretty regularly.
Okay, as of now, I'm a member of nothing. Like I said, I just came out of the
Okay.
bubble of education of taking, 18 hours a semester. So,
Oh my gosh! Wow, you're like a superhero. Oh my gosh. Now I feel like I was a slacker. I was like
no, it's
15.
not that. It's,
No, I'm gonna send a link here. This is open to STC members and friends. There's a link there to join the Slack, and it might be a little overwhelming because there are a lot of channels in there. But there is one that you can join for job seeking advice and also job postings, and there are people there from companies all across the country. So if you're
okay, great.
looking to work remote, oh, thank you, Julia. I've nailed copy pasting from LinkedIn. Just when you think you've got it figured out.
And I'll do another plug for flexjobs.com. Is a nice interim thing to do.
Okay, great. So, any other, I guess, advice or recommendations or words of encouragement for those who are seeking a job right now?
Has anyone ever heard of Career Contessa?
Yes.
She is an excellent resource. I highly recommend Kay to look her up. She's out of Los Angeles and she helps women with their careers. And her email newsletter is amazing. I signed up for it. It's free. But I recommend the Career Contessa.
Okay, thank you.
All right. And I saw Alice, your phone is dying. I am grateful for you joining us. So if we lose you shortly, thank you for being here. I did also see, I think I saw Lori Meyer hop on. Hi, Lori. Thank you for being here all the way from the West Coast.
Hi, Lori.
She might be on mute because she's at work. I just realized. Well, just that we're sending you good vibes, Lori. So I know I've still got a little bit more here that was listed, but are there anyone who I haven't come to yet who have something they would like to discuss with the group? Nancy looks thoughtful. Nope. She's just a naturally thoughtful person. Her cat has left.
I'm sitting in the dark. It was bright when it started, and now I can't see the keyboard.
Yeah. All right. Well, I can go back to some of the prepared questions if people don't have things that are on the top of their mind. I just didn't want to not give the opportunity.
Oh, words of encouragement, although it may not be encouragement. That for some reason, landing that first position is hard.
Mm-hmm.
And then not that it's been easy, but I remember when I got my first job through an internship at my Comm program. The second job, like I almost fell ass backwards into it, and I was shocked at the difference. I'd only had 2 years of experience, but it was just FYI, you get over that initial hump, and then it's easier after. For some reason, it's like you just need to find the one person who'll be like, yes, I'll let you work for me for a year, and then it will be easier.
Get some career inertia going.
Yeah, it makes no sense that it's like that, but it is. And I found that that's one thing that hasn't changed over the years.
I'm the quintessential millennials like getting screwed story. I graduated in 2009. The economy crashed in 2008. I had an English degree. Both of my parents were scientists that work in pharmaceuticals. So when you graduate, your network is 2, mom and dad. So I interned at Pfizer Pharmaceuticals, which sounds cool, but then I got a job in like clinical. I went down this clinical trials path in dermatology because that's where my network was. And once that kind of got used up, I couldn't get jobs in clinical because I didn't have a bio degree, and I couldn't get writing jobs because I didn't have any experience. And I was like, well, crap. Like it was very frustrating. So yeah, for what it's worth.
Yeah, sometimes I hate to say some of it's luck, but things coming along at the right time from the right person when you're available, and sometimes it just don't get that like cosmic connection of a bit of everything, knowing someone who is at the company who helps you get the job. Is JHT still hiring, Julia, at this point? I'm putting you on the spot.
I don't know for certain, but I can check. If you want to send me your resume, I will pass it along if we're still hiring. If we're not, I will email you back and say, I'm so sorry, but we aren't.
But they do regularly hire a lot of new grads at JHT. I know they have different levels too for based on your level of experience. So just throwing that out there.
No, I would say that the power of networking, I can testify to it. About 10 years ago, exactly, I was at the Space Center, got laid off, and then through STC 10 days later, I was writing proposals for Lockheed. So then, kind of the Dan Voss kind of snapped me up right there. He's like on the spot, he'd seen my work through STC, and then he was like, "That's right time, right place."
Mm-hmm. Right time, right place, right person.
Exactly.
It all came together.
Mm-hmm. I want to add regarding networking, don't discount not just your professional network, but if you're at your church, your activities, hobbies, anybody, your neighbors, friends, spread your network everywhere. Because you never know. They might know someone who knows someone who has a job.
Yeah. And okay, we might be preaching to the choir on a lot of these things, but maybe at least if that's the case, it'll affirm that you're doing the right stuff too, and sometimes it's just a matter of time. I know I don't want to say Julia and I went through it. I know I was just supporting you, Julia, but I felt very invested in your job search.
So much, though. You really did.
Yeah, but it was pretty grueling last year, and trying many things that just didn't work out before the right opportunity came along for her.
I don't know how many applications I sent in, submitted till I finally got this contract job. Mm-hmm. It took me, I know, almost a year to get after being laid off in the end of 2019.
Yeah. All right. I saw Kate had to hop off. I know I had it open all the way to 8:30, but I certainly don't want to keep anyone if you have not gotten to eat. I always make sure to eat before our calls so that I have my energy up and I don't, just slowly crash at my desk until 8:30. So certainly grateful for you guys for staying on.
That's for working hours. Just kidding.
Passing at your desk. I will say, after my first Pfizer dose, the first day I felt great. I slept like a baby. I awoke refreshed, and then about 25 hours later, I was like, I'm a little tired. 26 hours later, I almost fell asleep at my desk. And I was like, must send message to let my team know I can't make this meeting. And then I fell asleep.
Which one was it, Stephanie?
Which vaccine?
I got
Pfizer.
that's the one
Pfizer.
I got. I'm getting my second one, and I'll be fully vaccinated next Wednesday.
So
Praise
I
the
got mine
Tuesday.
on a Saturday, and I still had to take Monday off.
Oh,
Yeah.
I've seen a real mixed bag. My husband and I got vaccinated at the same time, and he woke up the next day and was like, I feel okay, but my arm is so sore. And I was like, I don't feel a thing in my arm, but my body has given up and just wants to be completely horizontal. So it seems to be a lot of unique experiences. If you have gotten vaccinated recently, I do recommend you sign up. I believe it's called VSafe. It's the government's like
Yeah, I
vaccination health
forgot
center.
about that. I signed up for that.
Yeah, yeah.
Pretty
What is
cool.
it?
So
Be
it's
safe.
it's this CDC's website where they track vaccine reaction. So if you get a vaccine dose, they'll ask you for
Oh,
feedback on your side effects so that they can aggregate that data and publish it.
Interesting. Cool.
Also, they have a great UI. If you are interested in looking at that, I think it's a really well designed little website you can open on your phone. It takes like less than a minute to complete the survey. But yeah, I recommend it if you have not signed up or if you have recently gotten vaccinated and you would like to share, what your experience has been like. I can give the link.
And then they text you at a certain hour, like
Yep.
every day. And I actually turned mine off because it was like, okay, I'm fine. So let's turn this off.
It was like they still need to know I'm fine. It switches from daily to weekly after a certain point after your doses. Yeah, so if you're not interested in being bugged by the CDC about your reactions, but I thought, well, the least I can do is contribute to the pool of data of my unique experience, which is obviously not unique because there's a certain set of symptoms that you tend to get, but they track different ones for the different vaccines. So
will they be publishing it at the same site? Because I was curious. Given all the out of stocks I just saw on that great website, I was like, I wonder what by the time they come back in stock, I'll see what they'll publish their results.
Yeah, I don't know if they've said exactly when they're publishing it, but I'm sure it'll be on the CDC website. But yeah, I had a good experience and thought it's a small contribution I can make from my exciting life at home where I never go anywhere. But otherwise, were there any other questions you guys wanted to cover? I'm checking over the list for people who are on the call to make sure I didn't overlook anything. Oh, I think Jessica, you had a question. I didn't understand it, but you did put "I can explain" in your description. So I will trust that you can explain how to handle contact information as a topic. Do you remember what the question was about? You're on mute, so hopefully you're not providing the answer yet.
I entered that as a discussion, how to handle contact information?
Literally, how to handle contact information, period. I can explain, period.
I don't remember the context of that. Maybe it was tagging on to a different one. I have no idea.
That was, and your other question was about the best collaboration tools. So I was like, I don't know what this means, but I'll put it in my list. Jessica will explain it to me.
I was testing you. I wanted to see about my usability, so I thought I'd throw a little Buddhist aphorism out there. And
right, is Bethany
the sound
actually
of one
checking
hand
these?
clapping? Yeah.
Yeah, no problem. If it comes back to you later, we can always discuss it in the future.
Oh, the only thing I can think of was something that I talked about with Jack Molisani, and I know that Nancy, you and I talked about that, where instead of putting, like, given this remote work, I think I put my town and remote.
Oh, for like for your work contacts.
Maybe for resumes, yeah, just as a way to just put that out front and center, because we're in this weird time. And I know that I had a job years and years ago that I traveled at, and then one where I literally worked from home maybe twice a month because we had these midnight deployments that were crazy. So basically I amped up my resume about where it was located. Like there's one I just didn't put the location. I just said travel and remote because it's true. Mm-hmm. And we're in this weird time. So I was just, I think that was probably the context of the question, because Some companies are very squeamish now because they don't know if they're going back. I've had people seen the job descriptions that say remote till COVID. And I just don't know if they don't even know what that means. They have no idea. It makes it so strange. And so I think sometimes maybe it's a good idea to notify them that, yes, I'm an adult and I've worked from home. I've even traveled, and I'm not going to flake out on you. And, I don't know what people are thinking. So maybe that's the only context I can think of that I'm in.
That's an interesting point of discussion. Yeah. And I hadn't thought about that. In a way, it shouldn't matter where we live so much, right? If the work we're doing is the same. I just for time zones. I have discovered that my brain is very good at some things, but I'm not good at quickly calculating time zones. And I found this to be very embarrassing where I'm like, enjoy lunch. And they're like, it's 9 a.m. Sorry.
It's
And if anyone's
9
had
a.m.
this struggle-
somewhere.
Right. I'm like, well, you can eat lunch whenever you want to eat lunch. If you want to eat lunch early, you go ahead. But that's been a personal adjustment I have not made yet. But otherwise, sorry, I'm checking over my list. So I think that's everything that I had definitively on the list. And I know we've still got people here on the call. I don't know if it's on video, but I thank you all for being here. We could definitely talk a little longer. I haven't heard much from Nancy, and I want to hear from Nancy. And I've already tried to get her once before, so I'm going to come back because someone who's not on the call did ask a question I thought could be relevant to you as to what it's like being a new grad.
I mean, it's I'm pretty much in the same situation that Kay's in right now, where I'm just like applying so much, and yeah, getting really good at taking like the rejection letters or the rejection emails. But today, actually, about 5 minutes before I logged on to this call, I had an email in my inbox from somebody at Lockheed, and they want me to do the peanut butter and jelly test.
Hey,
So I'm like,
congrats.
So I'm hoping that that's a good sign. So I'll be working on that this weekend. So I mean, yeah, I actually had a spreadsheet going of like all the jobs that I had applied to, and I was keeping track of like, this is how detailed oriented I am. I had a spreadsheet going, and I was keeping track of like, did I send them a second response? Did I call them? Did I email them? Just, being persistent. And after about 40 applications, I'm like, I can't do this. I can't do this. It can be discouraging sometimes, but then I had that moment of, there's an email from Lockheed in my inbox. Oh my goodness. So, hopefully that turns out. So
be great. Do you know like which part of Lockheed it is, since we have a couple Lockheed folks on the call, just in case that could help in any way.
Pull it up again. Patrick Green. Hold on.
Oh, Patrick Green, who's been on our
one of our
employment panel.
panelists
last
month.
Oh man, that takes it back to the networking.
Yeah, that's Technical great. Publications Manager, RMS.
Sorry, my cat decided that now is the time she needed to arrive and sit in my lap. So don't mind the cat still popping in and out of existence. She was on the bed, but now she needs more immediate attention. But still, congratulations. I hope you get good feedback on that. Yeah, absolutely. I'm sorry that it's a numbers game. 40 applications is a lot, but
It is a lot, and I would just validate, I totally get not being able to keep up with that spreadsheet. After a while, it's just too painful, and you'll find that you'll just not want to apply. It's a good.
Yeah, I was starting to get a little discouraged this week, but no.
Yeah.
So there's some
sometimes.
There's some mental tricks to it as well, keeping yourself in the right headspace too, right? I know that's something we talked about. Like I was like, Julia, how are you doing? And you were like, just nodding. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, it was pretty rough sometimes, but I was like, I'll get there. I don't know when. Could be next year.
Yep, you just got to keep at it.
Yep. You only need one.
Right, exactly.
That's right.
Hence
the validation of not keeping up with the spreadsheet. Sorry, I was just going to say,
no,
when I get discouraged, I'd be like, okay, I just need one, and I can't look at all this right now. It's not a record of who you are. It's just the process.
Yeah, well, I started the spreadsheet because I didn't want to get confused as to like if people would call me, they'd be like, yeah, we're so and so from this company. And I'd be like, Who? Did I
What
apply
job?
to you? I don't remember applying to you. And that's why I had the spreadsheet. So, oh yeah, I remember. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, of course. I'm very excited for this position with your company that does software.
Company number 27.
Yeah, absolutely. I know applying for jobs is a full-time job, and a tough one at that. So I guess it sort of helps to know that you're not alone in it, and it doesn't necessarily reflect what you have to offer, which is horribly unfair.
Right.
But it's just sadly a fact of our current world. The good news is we are not in a profession that you need to worry that it's dying or the work is going away or there's not going to be jobs, because we work broadly across whatever industry needs documentation. And I would say the field's been growing pretty consistently, especially with all the remote opportunities. So even if the right job hasn't come along yet, there will be a job for sure for you.
Right.
So be rooting for you, keeping you in mind. We hope you write the perfect peanut butter and jelly instructions.
I really don't like peanut butter and jelly. I don't like it.
What?
Am I weird?
Which part do you not like?
Peanut butter. I'm okay with jelly, but I don't like peanut butter.
You sound like my husband. He makes peanut butter and jelly and he puts like the finest little layer of peanut butter on there. And I'm like, what is this? Just like a little peanut butter essence? I want to slather it on. I'm looking for like many tablespoons of peanut butter. It's a peanut butter rich experience.
I love it, but I can't mix it with chocolate.
Oh, yeah. So, best of luck with that, and keep us posted. We like to hear good news. Julia is going to be
Absolutely.
publishing her member accomplishments. I know John set up a channel for the future technical communicators folks to submit what's going on with them, what they've achieved in recent times, and Joy's going to be publishing that in MTM. So feel free to share anything like that if you have good news.
Yeah, I'm planning to do that around graduation. I'll put a little notice in the channel.
So other than that, I believe that's everything that everyone who was on the call did submit. So if I am wrong about that and you submitted a question and I've missed it, feel free to pipe up now or put it in the chat because I don't want to overlook anything you guys want to know. But that being said, we've got a few minutes left. Do we want to open the floor to any additional thoughts or questions for the group?
I'll share something because I learned what it is.
Oh.
It was in another morning discussion. If any of you are seeing like UX Tech Comm and they want 3 to 5 years, even though I just started seeing it 6 months ago, so I don't even know what it is. I finally got that question answered. It's just screen text prompts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Someone answered that and I thought, I do that every day.
Right. You're like, oh, that's just writing, right?
Yeah. And I just thought, oh God, is this another degree? Like, do I have to go? It's sort of on that ongoing career. Is this like a skill I have to develop? I was like, no, I think it's another version of my resume.
Yep. We have the skills to be instructional designers, UX writers, business analysis, we come with many names, I guess.
So that's actually a question I have for the group. I'm curious what job titles you all have had, those of you who have been working in the field so far, because I'm kind of putting together some information for my job to get my title changed because I'm not a tech writer anymore, since I do almost no writing at this point in my career. It's mostly editing. But I'm curious what sort of titles you all have or have had.
Proposal editor.
Proposal editor. Nice, clean, elegant. I like it.
And now technical writer senior.
Technical writer. Is it technical writer, comma, senior? Or is it just the full, like, technical writer senior? I'm always curious when people put punctuation in titles. I'm like, what does it mean?
No, I think it's preceding it.
Okay.
Senior writer, communications manager.
Senior writer, communications manager. Okay. Sorry, Jessica?
I was going to say the very helpful technical writer 3.
Yes,
I've had that title a few times.
Yeah, it means you're a senior, probably, but in a non-specific way.
Has anybody ever actually been journeyman? Because I've seen that several times on
I think they have that
requisitions.
at JHT. Don't you have journeyman at JHT, Julia?
I'm not the right person to ask.
Oh,
I
sorry.
don't know.
I think I saw that from some of the younger folks. Gosh, I sound old. Sorry, the youngins who were in JHT who had journeyman in their title.
When I think of Journeyman, I think of Lewis and Clark. Are we going on
Right.
an adventure? What's
Right.
happening?
Right. Yes, it's like I think it's journeyman is after apprentice in the classic apprenticeship structure, I
Wow. Okay.
believe. Um, so I think it's sort of a callback to older
A little
times.
antiquated.
Yeah. No indentured servitude though. We're beyond that. Everyone does get paid. But
Makes me think of a harmonica and tumbleweed.
yes, yeah,
Yeah.
it does evoke something, doesn't it? Well, if anyone else has anything to want to share about job titles, I'm always interested to hear. I've just been sort of asking people and gathering. I, also could do research online. It's interesting what HR departments at companies think tech writers are or should be called. Before this, I was a technical documentation specialist, which is very misleading because my job
Yeah.
is entirely as a generalist, not a specialist.
I've had that title, and I was just going to say it's getting very interesting because the documentation specialist, people in hospitals that do medical records are called
Yes.
documentation specialists. Even
Yeah.
people who work at car repair shops are often called like the service writers. The titles overlap with other industries in such strange ways when you get away from technical writer, even though it's not the best description.
Yeah, I just think it's interesting. Okay, well, we've got a few minutes left. Any last thoughts, requests, feedback?
Thought it was a good session.
Absolutely.
We had
Awesome.
lively discussion all the way through. As a retired guy, naturally, didn't help my career any.
Well, I hope it was I'm glad it was interesting. Yeah, I appreciate you all being here and being so engaged. Like WC said, it would not be a lively discussion if it was just me talking. I can talk for 2 hours, but that's not very edifying for everyone. So thank you guys for bringing your thoughts and your perspectives and your questions. And I'd like to make this an annual tradition at the very least to do a meeting like this because I feel like I always learn something new about what's happening in the field because our field is changing rapidly. With how we work and what we do. So I'm sure if we do this next year, we'll have even more perspectives on what it means to be a technical communicator and whatever title we have. So I guess that is all for tonight. If you have any further questions, I think I put my email in the chat, but feel free to reach out to me. I don't think we have announced a program yet for May, but we will. And also, if you want to volunteer, reach out to me or Alex, who is going to be
Absolutely.
gathering names for elections and committee chairs and that sort of thing. So that's all going to be happening, pretty soon. So let your voices be heard if you would like to be more involved. It's a great time. So thank you all again. I hope you all have a wonderful evening and look forward to seeing you hopefully at the next one.
Absolutely.